DreAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is part 3 of our ongoing mini-series here, How America Does Immigration Wrong. Before we get into this, I remind you of two things. First of all, my text message number is down below in the description. Secondly, workonmygame.com. You want to get my emails for free every single day straight to your inbox. All you got to do is be on my email list. It is free to join. Just go to workonmygame.com, put your email address in, and you'll be getting the next one that we send out tomorrow morning. Third thing, Work on Your Game University. People ask me, Dre, do you offer any type of coaching? Can I work with you directly? Is there any way to have a just ongoing conversation with you so I can try to build up my business, build up my mindset, get a strategy and a game plan, a system for doing so, and have you help me in the process? The answer is yes. And that answer is found at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Learn more about that by clicking the link down in the description to this episode. Picking up where we left off, which is point number 7. This is part 3. We're picking up on point number 7 of our ongoing series, How America Does Immigration Wrong. Number 7 is erosion of American identity. This one I've touched on in a couple points already here in the series. Everything I've talked about up to this point comes down to this point right here. The American identity. As I said, can you go to Russia and find a bunch of people who have very, very strong differing opinions on what it means to be Russian? No, you won't. You will not find that in China. You won't find it in Indonesia. You won't find it in Australia. You will not find it in New Zealand. You won't find it in Germany. You won't find it in Canada, but you do find it in America. That you ask 10 different people, what does American identity mean? You'll get 10 different answers that are completely different from each other. How is this possible? How is this possible? This is the main challenge that many people who are born and bred in America have, the main issue that they have with immigration, because it is changing the identity overall. Because again, you keep pouring milk into a glass of water, is no longer milk. What is it? It's something else. The overall American identity was crafted over decades and even centuries of certain cultural understandings, principles, and expectations. That's where America came from. When we allow more and more people to come into our country and don't force them to assimilate in any way, shape, or form, the identity of being American, it slowly starts to become nothing. Doesn't really mean anything because you have so many different things here that it's no longer what it started out as. As the saying goes, if you stand for nothing, you fall for anything. When we don't have a clear identity, then anything goes, anything can work, and anything can fail. Because again, we don't have any guardrails holding us up. As I explained to you about the law of entropy, I did a whole episode on, I think I did a whole episode on the law of entropy. Yes, episode number 2806, where I explained entropy. Entropy is the increased disorder and chaos that naturally happens in any system when there are no standards and guardrails and principles keeping everything in line. If you don't keep things in line, they have no choice but to get out of line. All right, that's how it works. If you don't take care of your grass, then the yard's gonna look crazy. All right, there's no gray area in between. You're either taking care of the lawn or the lawn's looking crazy. It's one or the other. So in America, we don't have any guardrails upholding what American actually means, what the fabric of America actually is, and we're allowing more and more people in who are just doing whatever it is that they want to do. Nobody's checking them. Nobody's holding them accountable. No one's holding them to standards. So what does it mean to be an American now? We don't know. That's the point. We don't know. And is this a problem? My answer is yes, it is a problem, because nobody's doing anything about it. And again, I'll say this many times through this series. I've said it already. Donald Trump winning was a loud and clear message from the American citizens that they didn't like the fact that the fabric of the country was changing so dramatically and no one was saying or doing anything about it. Donald Trump was saying things about it and he was promising to do things about it. And again, by the time you all hear this, he is actively, when I'm recording it, he's already actively doing this. And by the time you all hear this, he'll have done even more to show you that he meant it. He was going to do something about it. He is actually in the moment doing something about it. Moving on, point number 8. Today's topic, once again, is how America does immigration wrong. Number 8, political polarization. Now, we all know that all politicians are liars. If you didn't know that, now you know. They all lie. They will use anything and everything to their political advantage against their opponents, no matter what it happens to be. And you want to see an example of this, just listen to anybody talk about Donald Trump. People do this all day, every day when it comes to Donald Trump. So he's actually a net benefit for a lot of the mainstream media that claims to not like him and claims to think this is such a calamitous state because of his presence. They don't really believe that because they're actually using it to draw attention to themselves. And also this is true on both sides of the political aisle. All politicians do this. What's happening in politics these days is that some politicians are for immigration for things that will benefit them and their side, or at least what they claim to be supporting at the moment. Because you all know a politician can support one thing today and 3 months from now is supporting the exact opposite thing for whatever reason. Sometimes a reason that they will state, and sometimes a reason that they will state, but the real reason is one that they're not stating. That's usually the case. But all politicians do this. They will demonize anyone who disagrees with them over the exact same point. And this is usually done by people on the left side democratically will demonize the people on the right side. The right side, Republican, politically, the political left will demonize people on the political right for disagreeing with them on certain things. And they use a whole lot of emotional blackmail, appeals to emotion, appeals to pity. They do this very well. They're actually very skilled at it, and it works very well to influence a lot of Americans. But the thing about the influence is that it influences people both ways. It influences some people to hate the people on the right even more, and it influences amongst people on the right, seeing through the nonsense, to hate the people on the left for the fact that they're even trying it. And again, we learned we got a very strong mandate from the American voters that this does not work as well as people might think it works if all you pay attention to is social media when you see the election outcome. So while I would love to omit politicians from this whole conversation, politicians are Americans themselves. They have a lot of influence over how we talk about things here in the United States, and they must be mentioned because this politicization of the conversation, this politicization of or the polarization rather of politics when it comes to immigration, we all see where it's coming from. You see that the left side is about open immigration and opening the borders as much as possible. The challenge of opening a border is that if you don't enforce a border, then it's not a border. It's like you have rules, but the rules are open rules. It's like, these are the rules, but if you don't want to follow them, don't follow them. You might as well not have rules in the first place. Again, if you're going to have a border and you're not going to enforce it, you might as well not even have a border. Just don't have a border. Just make it all wide open and anybody can just walk in whatever they feel like. But if you have a border, then enforce the damn border. If you have laws, enforce the damn laws. If you don't want to enforce laws, just abolish the laws. All right, if that's what you want to do, just do it. One thing you should note, as a side note here, you notice that Congress never abolishes a law and they only add more laws. So all they're doing is putting more guardrails around citizens and what we can and can't do, yet they're never taking laws away to give us more freedom. All they're doing is taking more of it away. And oh, by the way, you're voting for this, those of you who are citizens here in America. Anyway, let's continue what I was talking about here. So what I'm talking about here is the polarization used politically. And when more immigrants get brought in, usually by people on the left side, they're open to bringing in as many as possible. They are saying, hey, all of us are immigrants in some way, and this land once belonged to the Native Americans, and this land is stolen from the Native Americans. Side note on that, there's no such thing as stolen land. You cannot steal land from a person because land is not owned. It is occupied and controlled. If you think you own land, just try not paying your property taxes and you'll find out who actually owns your land is the people that you pay taxes to. There's no such thing as owned land. Therefore, land cannot be stolen. Native Americans did not own the land that was America. They occupied it. They controlled it until they got the shit taken from them by people with bigger guns and more people. And in the future, that can happen to us here in America. Right now, we occupy this land, but if another country with bigger guns and more weaponry comes in and decides to take it and they win, they can take it. And it's not ours. It's theirs now because they took it. That's the way it works. So anyway, I just had to make sure that was said on the record in this series here. What the politicians do, usually on the left, is anytime someone pushes back against the concept of immigration, they make it seem like, well, you're xenophobic. You're against people from other cultures. You're racist. You're against brown people. You are elitist. You're only trying to help yourself, or you're a white supremacist. You're only trying to help white people, or whatever it is. These are all emotional blackmail ploys, also known as the appeal to emotion fallacy, where you use emotion to get someone off of their logical point and make it seem like there's something emotionally wrong with them by making a logical point that actually may be a very sound point to be made. And a lot of people get taken advantage of when they don't understand the appeal to emotion logical fallacy, because they allow it to be used against them. So all of you are now equipped to handle it when someone else tries to come at you with that bullshit. Just point out their fallacy. Usually when you point out somebody's fallacy, they'll stop using it. Or they'll use it over and over again because they have no other material. But if you point out enough of their fallacies, eventually people will stop using them because now they realize how silly they are. You got to point it out, tell them what they did, and then explain why it's a fallacy. I am well versed in this stuff. That's why I'm able to explain it. You can learn it just as well. Moving on, point number 9. Today's topic, once again, is how America does immigration wrong. Number 9, illegals, illegal immigrants. There's some people who say, well, Dre, we shouldn't call them illegal immigrants. The people have softened the language up these days and they call them undocumented. Fuck that. They are illegal. All right. The United States has a law. We have laws on immigration. If you come into this country and you have not followed the laws of immigration, but you are here anyway, then that means you are here illegally. Therefore, you can be labeled exactly what you are, which is a human who is here illegally. And we, in shorthand, we call that an illegal immigrant. You are an illegal immigrant if you are here without proper documentation. You are not you are undocumented. In fact, you are also illegal. Or you're both. You're undocumented and illegal. So no, we are not softening the language. We don't do language softening around here. So any of you who's new around here, or even if you're old around here, just some information or a reminder. There are many immigrants coming to our country right now who are here illegally, i.e. they do not have proper paperwork. And over the 4 years of the Biden-Harris administration, they were openly welcoming these people who did not have proper documentation to be here in the country. They're using an app called the CBP1 app to allow people to get legal status, fast-track legal status, to where they were here. They were technically not here illegal anymore. They were here legally, and they were able to get this legal status in a very short period of time. This is the question I ask every time I do my live stream. So any of you who's listening to this, answer this yourself. If you are an immigrant who came here legally and you obtained citizenship in the United States, or you have a family member who came here legally and either obtained or is trying to obtain citizenship here in the United States, here's my question. How long did that process take, / how long is that process taking? Whenever I've asked this question in my live streams, the answer is always in the form of years, not months, not weeks, not days, not hours, years. It takes years to get proper paperwork, proper documentation in the United States. But through this app that the Biden-Harris administration was allowing, the CBP1 app, they were allowing people to get fast-track legal status within days or even hours. And that's how so many people were able to be here. And if you called them illegal, then someone could correct you and they could factually correct you and say these people are not illegal. They have legal status. You remember the vice president debate between Tim Walz and J.D. Vance in the 2024 election cycle. J.D. Vance used the phrase illegal immigrants at one point, and he was fact-checked by moderators who weren't even supposed to be fact-checking during this debate. It was actually announced there will be no fact-checking, and the moderator fact-checked him anyway and said, well, those people have legal status. And it's like J.D. Vance said, they're not supposed to be fact-checking here. What are you doing? And again, this goes to a bigger picture idea of why the mainstream media is falling apart and losing all credibility, because we see what they're doing. They got so arrogant, and then now they got slapped in the face by the November election outcome in 2024. But I don't think they're really going to learn from it. But anyway, back to what I was talking about here. One more thing about that CBP1 app. The day that Donald Trump went into office, literally at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, the app stopped working, and all appointments were canceled. They stopped letting the app work that very day that Donald Trump went into office, because he said that was part of his agenda. He said promises made, promises kept, and he absolutely did. So immigrants coming into this country, again, the Biden-Harris administration wanted this. They opened the borders. They relaxed the enforcement of laws. This is all documented. When Joe Biden came into office in 2021, within 30 days, he executed a bunch of executive orders that basically canceled out all the tightening of the border laws that Donald Trump had put in place. He canceled those out, which basically relaxed the border laws. And that's how so many immigrants were able to come in between 2021 and halfway through 2024 until in mid-2024, when Donald Trump started using it for the political campaign. The Biden-Harris administration started actually enforcing the laws again. And they claimed that they were trying to fix things and that the Republicans were blocking them, which was complete bullshit. And again, everybody saw through the bullshit because, again, you saw the outcome of the election. But what they did was they allowed all these immigrants to come in during the 3.5 years of the administration. And many towns were overrun with these immigrants. And many of you may have heard of these. Some of you may live in these towns that were overrun with immigrants, depending on where you live. Maybe you experienced it firsthand. And again, this was a small town such as Springfield, Ohio. That was the eating the dogs, eating the cats city. And then there was big places such as New York City, where the mayor of New York City, at least as of this recording, Eric Adams, was saying we're going to be a sanctuary city. There are many cities that were boasting we're sanctuary cities. You can come to this city, and if you're here illegally, we're not going to send our police after you. We're going to let you live here as long as you're following the rules. We're going to give you some money. We'll give you some food. We'll give you a place to stay. We're a sanctuary city. And there are many cities that were virtue signaling that they were going to be these quote unquote sanctuary cities because they were so far from the border. What's the chances of an illegal immigrant making their way all the way to your city anyway? And what's the chance of there being so many of them? There wasn't much of a chance. But Governor Greg Abbott in the great state of Texas, he decided, okay, we're going to take these people up on their word. So what he did was take a bunch of those illegal immigrants who were being allowed into America. He couldn't stop it because the federal government was in control of the border. He put them on buses and started sending them to all these cities that said will be sanctuary cities. Now these people are arriving on buses by the busload in the middle of New York City, in the middle of Chicago. And now these mayors who said will be a sanctuary city, now they got held accountable. Let's find out if you're really a sanctuary city. And the citizens in those cities said, hey, what the hell are you doing giving resources to these mofos who just got here on a damn bus? Y'all ain't giving nothing to us, and we've been here. You ain't giving nothing to us, and our bills are too high. You're not giving anything to us, and there are potholes in the roads. We got homeless people who've been living here for decades. You just gave free shelter to these immigrants who came in here. So basically, it was a checkmate of a bunch of these mayors and governors who were claiming they were going to be sanctuary locations for these immigrants. Because when they found out what it was really like, as they say, real life tends to differ from the lab tests. That's what was actually happening. So these sanctuary cities were calling themselves that up until the point they had to provide actual sanctuary. Then they weren't sanctuary cities anymore. Then they were saying, don't send people here. And they realized they didn't really want to be a rest haven for illegals when they realized what it took to be a rest haven for illegals. That's why you don't hear a lot of people talking about this. You didn't hear a lot of people talking about it for a good 6 months. Then when Donald Trump came into office and they started sending the border enforcement people called ICE, they started sending these people around the city to start rounding people up. Now you have more people claiming they're sanctuary cities and we're not going to use our cops. Doesn't mean ICE can't come in there and do what they got to do because they're federal agents. Your local cops can't stop them from doing whatever it is that they need to do. If they're doing something, if they're executing a warrant, they can do it. They're coming to find somebody who they need to find and get out of the country. They can do it. And right now what's happening is you get a lot of people claiming sanctuary city again, only because it's, again, virtue signaling and political theater to look like you're standing up to Donald Trump. When if Donald Trump decides he's going to do something in your town, you as a mayor, there's not a lot that you can do to stop him. As long as what he's doing is, if he's doing something illegal, that's one thing. But going and finding illegal immigrants and pulling them out, extracting them, that's not illegal. You might not help because you're a sanctuary city, but that doesn't stop them from doing their job anyway. And effective people get the job done with or without help, by the way. So that's it. Let's recap today's class, which is part 3 of our ongoing mini-series here, which is How America Does Immigration Wrong. Number 7, the erosion of American identity. As I gave you in the metaphor, if you have a glass of water and a glass of milk, you keep pouring milk into the glass of water, eventually it's no longer water. It's also not milk. It becomes this concoction that we don't even know what it is. And that's what's happening with America right now, which is why such a hard pushback from many Americans, true blood Americans, who feel like things are changing here way too much, way too quickly, and it shouldn't be changing in this way. Number 8, political polarization. Politicians leveraging the immigration issue for political clout and winning votes for themselves, and or just straight up demonizing their opponents. This is not a new thing. It's a common game. Number 9, illegals. Many immigrants coming into the country are coming here illegally, openly allowed by the Biden-Harris administration, now shut off by the Trump administration. And this becomes a whole back and forth cat and mouse game in the news when it comes to the headlines and the information wars about what is true, what's not, what's legal, what's not. But good thing people like myself are here with independent platforms to let you know what's really going on and help you understand it in a very in everyday plain language. All that said, tomorrow we're going to go into part 4 of this ongoing series, How America Does Immigration Wrong. Make sure you go to workonmygame.com right now, get on my email address, get on my email list, put in your address, get on my email list, and workonyourgameuniversity.com. Look at our receipts, find out who we help, put your information in, and schedule your time to be the next person to work with us. That's all in workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all